I love it.
You know how many times I've been on the beach and a cop asked me to dump it out?
He does open it up a little bit sometimes.
I think Penny does too. If you ever watch Counsel meetings, Penny always has like a break in the microphone.
I forget that there's one.
Or Dr. Wright, or Mr. Wright, or Dr. Wright, or whatever. Mr. Wright. What's that say? Right? She drinks Diet Right. I'm like, I've never seen anybody drink Diet Right in my life. That's Penny.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's still around.
When I was a kid, my father got paid on Friday, okay, and he would have to go to Clear Spring. We lived in Kankajig. He'd have to go to Clear Spring and get his check, but it was always cash.
Yeah.
And this is, a long time ago. And he would stop at the he would stop at the local market and get a pound of Lebanon bologna cut real thin, bag of potato chips, and a 6-pack of that right cold.
Really?
And maybe a couple of half pints of hand-dipped ice cream. That was our Friday night meal.
What's called? Is that
Hey, can you hear me?
positive alerts are paying attention?
All right, perfect. I'm gonna put you down here by Linda's microphone.
Yeah, goodness.
Thank you. The one up here.
Thank you. Let the record show that it's 6 o'clock. We'll call a meeting to order. Sarah, will you give us the roll call, please?
Eddie Gokenhauer,
Here.
Linda Barnhart,
Present?
Eric Goff,
Here.
McKenna Norton,
Present.
Tim Lewis,
Present.
Daniel Gant,
Here.
Nick Deal.
Okay, we do have a quorum this evening. The first item on the agenda is to approve the agenda, but I do have something to tell you that there was a public hearing scheduled for Meadows at Riverside, but it was omitted from the agenda. So we can hear you speak under the public hearing, but we cannot vote on it because it's not on the written agenda. I will let our legal counsel go it from there.
Yeah, that's correct. We made a mistake here. If anybody's here for that project, we're going to let you come up and speak. We usually let anybody come up and speak under the Sunshine Law at the beginning. However, because we made a mistake and didn't have it on the agenda, we're not allowed to rule on that this evening. Can't have that public hearing. If anybody's here from that, they could probably come up this time. What you can start that.
We got to approve the agenda first.
Yeah, absolutely.
Move to approve the agenda.
Okay, I have a motion, Mr. Goff, to approve the agenda.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gant. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved. We do have the Sunshine Law. This is an opportunity if you want to speak regarding a project or something that's on your mind. I ask that if you want to speak about something other than public hearing, you save your comments for public hearing at that time. We have 3 public hearings: Reserve at Tuscarora, APM Residences, and Orchard View Townhouses. So if you want to speak under those, we would ask that you hold your comments until that time. However, since we have the error in the agenda, anyone wants to come forward right now and speak regarding Meadows at Riverside, please do so. Yeah, you can sign. Could we have your name, please?
My name is Paul Schilt.
Paul what?
Schilt.
Schultz? Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to bring up the fact that, that's one way in, one way out along that bridge on Broad Lane. And the traffic that's gonna bring, 250 something homes. I mean, that's a lot for that one bridge, one way in, one way out. You know, I believe it's Brookfield has a way in and out, but it's locked to us, regular, non-people living there. And yeah, it's just a lot of traffic in and out. That's about 500 cars potentially, 2 people per whole household. Yeah. Not to mention, I looked on the Plat, and both of the entrances that they're planning, one's almost on a line hill there. I mean, it's just, I don't see why they should be so close. If you're going to do 2 entrances, why you wouldn't have one in front, one in the back, or rear. They couldn't make concessions for that. I know it's a bad area there. I think it goes back out on Shell Pit, but I think the county needs to do something with that area anyway. Maybe that would give you guys a reason to maybe get those roads done back there a little better.
Okay, you know that the roads in the county are
Yes,
not
county.
maintained by the
Yes.
county, they're state roads. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
But I think that they should, the contractors come in here and they build all these homes. Why aren't they footing a cost of this? I mean, our schools. I mean, if you look at our schools, my daughter, when Spring Mills was first built, the very first year it was built, she couldn't get a locker in that room, in that school. I mean, that's unacceptable. I mean, I have 5 children that go to these schools, and I've been here for over 24 years on that same road. It's just a lot.
Okay.
That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Mr. Legal, are we going to conduct a public hearing at a later date as well?
Yes, I believe, and Laura, you can.
It won't be re-advertised, but I'll take public comment from tonight and add it to it, but it can be up to your all's discretion to keep the public hearing open for the next meeting and not close it tonight.
Okay. Should we keep, is that what you recommend?
That's, yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, since we listened to him under the Sunshine Law, we didn't really listen to him under the public hearing, so.
Well, my understanding was that it was going to be published, but it's not.
We'll put it in the packet, so it'll be a part
As long as you
of,
print it and add it to the.
yeah, we'll put it into the packet with the staff report as, with an explanation that it was given tonight at the public hearing date that it was advertised for. So it'll be in your agenda packet.
Are you going to advertise for the next hearing date? Or?
That advertisement period's already passed to re-advertise it, so it'll be posted on the agenda, but it won't be posted in the journal again.
Well, I understand that, but you can still run one correction in the newspaper.
I don't know.
So we haven't.
We didn't.
Public hearing.
I didn't discuss that this morning with Jeff, but I mean we can do that. I don't see why
I
not.
think we should. If
We
there's
can run
gonna
that
be
tomorrow or whatever. Yeah.
another date for dinner.
It'll be like a 1 week notice because it might just run on Monday, but we'll run it.
Because it was our mistake here. We don't have to.
Well, the ad does say that there's a backup date, so I don't know if that,
The backup date would be the
the
next meeting.
16th.
Okay, well then that's fine. I don't think it's. This isn't a public hearing now.
Okay,
You can take those comments, but we'll
okay, so we're,
Continue it to the next.
use it as a backup date.
okay, all right. So we don't need to continue a public hearing or anything like that, right?
And then if that was the backup date, we don't need to re-advertise.
Okay. Mr. Schultz, you understand?
Yeah, I'll be back.
Okay, we'll look forward to seeing you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is approval of the meeting minutes.
Make a motion, we approve.
I have a motion by Mr. Gantz, second by Ms. Norton to approve the meeting minutes as submitted. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Abstain due to absence.
okay, let the record show that Mr. Goff is abstaining due to absence. Okay, we will now begin our public hearing, and I will say that the first item on the agenda is reserve at Tuscarora. I'm assuming that a fair amount of people are here that want to talk about that. I will ask that you not repeat the same thing over, that we'll take the comments and then move on to the next person who wants to speak. Okay? Reserve at Tuscarora.
And I'm gonna recuse at this time for conflict of interest.
Thank the record show that Mr. Gant's recusing due to conflict.
So this is a public hearing for a request for sketch plan advancement. The project is the Reserve at Tuscarora, file 2204-118. The developer is Panhandle Homes, and the engineer is Fox & Associates. It's located in the Arden District, tax map 2, parcels 4.3 and parcel 7. The site's located along the north side of Tuscarora Pike, approximately half a mile west of Interstate 81. The developer is proposing 45 single-family lots on approximately 74 acres to be served by public water and sewer. No waivers or exceptions have been requested. On July 11th, 2022, County Engineer Doug Smith issued a letter of approval stating that a review of the above-mentioned project was completed and found to be in compliance with Berkeley County Subdivision Ordinance. The sketch plan meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance, therefore staff recommends advancement of the sketch plan to the preliminary plan stage.
Okay. Do you have anyone to represent the project?
Good evening, Madam President. Kenneth Bart of the law firm of Steptoe & Johnson on behalf of the applicant. I'm joined by the president of Panhandle Homes, Mr. Alan Henry, joined by Mr. Mike Schiffler of Fox & Associates, also joined by Mr. Phil Steptoe, who represents the ownership group.
Thank you. Okay, like I said, this is a public hearing. If you want to make your comments known regarding this project, and if you were at this public hearing that we had for this project several months ago, whenever it was being considered for a zoning request, that is not what we are discussing tonight. We are discussing the compliance to the subdivision regulations. So, anyone care to speak?
I apologize, you kind of threw me a curve there.
Uh-oh.
So tonight, we're only discussing of it being allotted for the subdivision ordinances.
That's correct.
But not in the Tuscarora zoning things, correct?
As I understand it, it met the requirements of the Tuscarora
Correct.
zoning ordinance. So now it is before the planning commission to meet our ordinance.
Okay.
And our county engineer and our planner say that it does comply with the subdivision regulations.
Correct.
Okay?
Correct. I do have a couple quick questions, if I
Okay,
may.
just
Or
state
comments, I
state
guess.
your name for the record.
Oh,
please.
Scott A. McAvoy. I live at 191 Showers Lane. Just curious, I appreciate, Fox and all taking time and going back and the residents like this idea a little bit better than what came out the last time. The only thing that we do really have questions about is there's roughly 16 to 18 acres in between Showers Lane and where they'll build the new houses that really don't show any idea at this point what that's for. I guess it's kind of a gray area between the ordinances and the zoning. We just would like to know what the thought process is there for that. And maybe that's another meeting. I apologize if I'm at the wrong spot.
No, you're okay.
In the carts area, though, is it required or recommended to provide some sort of a liner in the stormwater management, the bioretention areas, and not allow infiltration? Has there been any infiltration testing done? I'm not sure about that. If not, and it is determined that infiltration is not adequate, how does that change the plan based on the thing? They show stormwater management forebays and infiltration basins. How about any stormwater storage? I don't know if based on, because of the floodplain and so forth, if that, I think that falls into those ordinances to make sure that that's all managed correctly. I don't know that there's been any floodplain study or analysis. And then we're also curious about what types of landscape material is proposed in the 50-foot landscape buffer behind the lots 12 through 24 on Showers Lane. What does the required 50-foot landscape buffer consist of? Plant material quantities? Is landscaping permitted within the sanitary sewer easement? I'm not sure that you can do something over top of the sanitary sewer easement. And I'd like to suggest maybe that the landscape buffer actually be from the sanitary sewer easement of the applicant, should show how the required plant material fits in with the buffer. What else did I make notes about? There's some, just different notes in there about no rock outcrops on the property. There's rock outcrops all through the property. I've been all over it many times. Most, if not all, adjacent residential properties are on wells. Assuming that there will be a lot of blasting and heavy construction activities, what provisions are in place to assure the adjacent properties wells will not be impacted? And if the wells are impacted, who's responsible to fix them or pay for them or hook us up on public water? I'm afraid that might come into play. I'm pretty sure there hasn't been a traffic study done on that. We're already on a busy road and so forth, but I have a feeling it's going to fall underneath what the West Virginia DOH is already doing because of the massed houses down Delmar Orchard Road to try to control something in through there. I appreciate y'all taking time for us. This plan does look a whole lot better than what the first round was. And we know that we can't keep it forever, but we hope we get something that's similar to what's in the neighborhood.
All right. Keep in mind that this is a sketch plat.
Yes, ma'am.
And
It is. I
that,
know that.
and that there are several approvals that are yet to come.
Very familiar.
And the traffic study is one of those,
Oh, okay.
as well as the water and sewer and the highway entrance. Those
I
are all
just
yet to
didn't,
come.
some of those things I looked for, I couldn't find them on the site.
Yeah.
So, okay, thank you.
I'd like the county engineer to address some of Mr. McAvoy's concerns.
Yes, William, good evening. As far as the stormwater management is concerned, right now it is a sketch plan, so final stormwater calculations are not a part of this approval. However, the concept plan that was submitted for it does match the West Virginia Stormwater Management Design Manual. It does match the Berkeley County Ordinance. They will have some things to do final calculations on and so on and so forth, but the concept is completely rational. Where they are located on the creek there, they could ask for even more relief on stormwater management. It is a trout stream. It is a Class 1 stream under West Virginia, so we did make those comments. They did make provisions for that. They do have the conservation areas that they're going to put in place. So I don't really see where there's any question about stormwater management. Really, that was kind of one of the least issues of concern with this. As far as the traffic goes, they have been to DOH. DOH is not going to require a traffic study for this project.
Because
it does not make warrants.
okay, just want to clear that up.
Now, we did look at it from Berkeley County's traffic study requirements, and they also do not make warrants. They need to have 100 peak hour trips, 100 trips of the peak hour leaving the subdivision, and it doesn't generate that. About the best that would happen here is it may qualify enough warrants to require a deceleration lane for a right turn in. I doubt it would even require a dedicated left turn lane coming from the other direction. I think that was pretty much it. As far as the buffers go, I'll let Laura talk about that. But I mean, as far as engineering wise, We don't really foresee any issues. There's plenty of room for the stormwater. They will meet the pre-2 and the pre-10-year flows at the post-development discharge. So they have met everything.
Okay. Do you want to address that, Laura?
Yeah, I can try to say.
Let's let her answer the questions.
So the landscape buffer that's shown isn't something that's actually required by our ordinance. I believe it was something that the applicant was doing in good faith, but the uses, both being residential, wouldn't require a buffer or a setback or any landscaping. So I'm not quite sure what the applicant intends to do, but it's not something that our ordinance would enforce.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll take other public comments. Sure. I kind of remember you from the first public hearing, Chriswell, but what's the first name?
Carol.
Carol, okay.
I have a very simple question. I heard that they said they're going to have public water, public sewer. Is it now going to be annexed by the city?
I
Because
can't
the
answer
city
that.
is right there,
I can't answer
and they
that.
would just take it right over.
The city,
Where's the water coming from? Where's the sewer? I assume is going to the county, but I don't know.
yeah.
You can be
Because-
in the county and still have water or sewer service by the city of Martinsburg.
But then it's eligible, they've taken over Delmar Orchard section, and they jumped the interstate. So it would be very simple. I'm not sure if Sheriff Lane is on sewer.
But it's in the public service sewer district, and it's the public service water district, and those are their mains, so they would have to give them up to the city of Martinsburg to allow them to do that.
Might be well spent for them. Those people like to give away their
I
sewer
wouldn't see
systems.
that because the public, I mean, they have to maintain the sewer line, so they would be giving away a gap in their sewer line that they couldn't get back.
It just gives Martinsburg, and I'm nothing against Martinsburg, it just gives them a great opportunity to really move out. They have jumped the interstate. That used to be a nice little barrier. They jumped it on Delmar Orchard Road, and it would jump very easily on that side.
Okay, I will tell you that whenever annexations happen, this body is never involved in it. It's always done between the county council and the city of Martinsburg.
Okay.
Am I right, Mr. Legal?
That is correct.
Okay.
Well, that's my question.
Okay.
Where can we get a map?
Excuse me, you'll have to come forward and give us your name for the record.
Can we get a map of the proposed development?
Well, it's a sketch plat. I don't know if there are additional sketches that are available or not.
Everything's electronic online. I don't believe that we printed any copies for tonight.
Thank you very much.
Did you get that from online, Mr. McAvoy? Did you get that from online?
Yes, ma'am, I got it all.
Okay, all right. So just want to make sure you have the right documents.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Further questions from the public?
Good evening. I'm Janet White. I live at 688 Showers Lane. And my concerns are also with regard to the remaining land, which is about, it indicates about 15.71 acres. I see that the lot 45 has an entrance from Showers Lane. It's the only piece of building property that has an entrance off of Showers Lane. But there's also from the drawing, there's I don't know if it's a buffer zone or exactly what it is between this lot 45 and property number 12 that is existing Showers Lane. What is the purpose of that area? Is that going to be a right-of-way for this remaining land? Depending on what that remaining land could be used for, is that, why couldn't that just be closed off of Showers Lane so there's not additional traffic off of Showers Lane, and that the remaining land would be accessed off of Tuscarora, because looks like there's access or could be access from Tuscarora. So that's a concern for us in that area, is more traffic on Showers Lane because of this one additional piece of property. I'm tickled to death with the plans. I'm glad to see that they're single-family homes and of nice size to help keep with the rest of the residential area. But I have that concern with that remaining land and no real clear definition of what might go there.
Yeah, I don't know if the applicant is prepared to give that information this evening or not.
The short answer is no, because we don't know what it's going to be. Obviously, if in fact anything will ever be done with it, it's going to have to come to you for approval, and we'll go through the necessary steps. But right now, as it exists, it's going to be remaining as remaining lands. Nothing is before you, and nothing is being done to pursue that right now.
Okay. Additional questions?
Hi, my name is Jeff Campbell. I live in Mountain Brook Estates, which is across the creek from this development. I've been there for 30 years, and I just have a specific concern. Well aware that this came through last year and was turned down and has been resubmitted, and the plans are much more sensible, more reasonable. I appreciate that, and I thank you for the opportunity to make a comment. My property is right across from lot 21, I think it is, which is the closest one to the creek. And now on our side of the creek, it's a large flat plain, so it floods fairly often in heavy rain. On the other side of the creek, it doesn't flood quite as much, but my concern is the Tuscarora Creek, the integrity of the Tuscarora Creek. That area that's well wooded and covered with plants and so forth has a lot of benefits. And a lot of people know it as a riparian buffer strip. It filters the water that comes off the runoff. It provides shade for the creek environment, for the creatures that are there, and there are a lot of creatures around the creek. It maintains the structural integrity of the creek banks, and it helps to dissipate flooding when it does occur. But I see that there's lots 21 and 22, I think they are, come down close to the creek, and I'm wondering why they are pointed right at the creek. It looks like a short distance. And so I guess I just have a request, and that would be to maybe take a look at the site plan. And if that one cul-de-sac was eliminated, there'd be a lot there, and the other one could be moved up the hill some. That's what I see. The rest of it is, has been well planned out, I think. I don't understand that part of it.
Okay, well, again, this is a sketch plan,
Right.
and there may be changes that will happen to the development as it progresses through the Planning Commission's process.
Right.
That might be one of them. I can't answer that. I don't think anybody in the room can answer it this evening. It's a sketch plan. It's an
No, I
idea.
understand. That's why I'm here to
Right.
tell you what my concerns are about
Well-
that particular part of it.
And the representatives are here. They're hearing that as well.
Okay.
Thank you very
All
much.
right, thank you.
Additional questions from the public regarding the reserve at Tuscarora? Going once? I knew we had somebody else.
It's real simple. My name's Mike David. I
Mike what?
apologize. I have a question.
What's your name again?
Michael David.
David, okay.
Can you clarify something that we were asked about the traffic pattern? What did you mean by 100? Is that 100 cars per hour, or?
For the Berkeley County subdivision ordinance, there is.
You may want to come up to the microphone so the people in the back can hear you.
In the Berkeley County subdivision ordinance, there is a provision for traffic studies that the county can request. The warrants for that traffic study indicate that during the peak hour, 100 trips must leave this development onto that roadway. Per ITE analysis, this subdivision does not generate 100 trips during the peak hours, so you do not make warrants, and that's more than likely the same warrant that DOH used with not requesting the traffic study.
Do you want to give us the peak hours?
The peak hours would be 7 to 8 in the morning and 5 to 6 at night.
Okay.
Well, like I said, I'm not familiar with all this, but I do have one concern. The driveway that would enter in there between Chateau and just the normal traffic on that road exceeds 100 vehicles an hour at that time. I mean, way past that. Anybody that's left or been on that road at 7 to 8 o'clock in the morning, I travel every morning, I leave at 7 o'clock in the morning to go to work. I'll sit there at that intersection for 5-10 minutes waiting because of the blind turns. You know what I mean? You can't really see what's coming, so you have to be careful. So for them not to do a study on that road, as narrow as it is, and there's turns at each end, I think it's ridiculous. You know, like I said, I'm not an engineer. You know, I go to work every morning, but I can tell you that it'd be a hazard, and especially if there's going to be 250. I'm not looking at you, but particular. But if there's 250 vehicles or 250 houses, you estimate 500 to 600 vehicles.
There's not 250.
250? Oh, 40 something. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But still, you figure 2 to 3 cars per house because every house has multiple vehicles. Added to the extreme traffic that's on that road anyhow, I really think it is a safety concern. Thank you.
Well, again, sir, we can only request what our regulations require.
I know, but it made me feel better to come up here and voice
Very
it.
good. I'm glad you feel better. You know, it's good that we have these public hearings on the sketch plat, but it does give you an opportunity to make your concerns known, and you know, we can listen to them, and we can possibly make decisions in the future. And the developer will hear what you're saying tonight, and you know, hopefully everything will go smoothly. Okay, sir, are you coming forward to speak?
Yes. I need to sign under.
Yes, please. You can lower your mask if you would, so that you can be heard.
I like the previous
What's your name, please?
commentator. My name is David Knowles. I live in Mount Brooker Estates. I guess one factor when you talk about number of vehicles, what about all the school buses that come to and from Showers Lane and what's the opposite road there? That's, you know, that's something you got to consider. You're talking about children. You got to do something to make that road safer. I don't care what it is, a light, slow down, bumps, whatever. This is ridiculous what you're going through with right now. I like the plan as far as the size of the estates and everything, but something's got to be done before too many accidents happen. People get killed on that road. This is nonsense. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Additional questions, please?
Hi, I'm Corey Rodriguez. I live in Mountain Brook Estates, and I'm also on the Zoning Board of Appeals. I just wanted to speak real quick because when it came to you a year ago, I spoke out against it. I just wanted to say that I am pleased with, I know it's a preliminary, but what was presented for us. So I thank you guys for going back and doing that. And the only thing I would add about, I agree too, the traffic's an issue. So I know it's state-owned roads, right? So who do we have to go to as far as, do we have to go to a delegate? Do we have to go to a senator to get something done?
You mean upgrade the roads?
Yes.
Okay.
Like who's our...
I'll let Mr. Legal answer that question for you.
Certainly you can go talk to any of your state representatives or anyone at the DOH. The district office is who you usually want to talk to. We can give you their information. certainly a letter to DOH expressing concerns that you have for that intersection in Delmer Orchard and Tuscarora.
Showers Lane.
Showers Lane. Taking the left side of there is a little bit risky. So.
Yeah, and I would think that, you know, I understand we can't do anything at this level, but at least give us the context we need to go to so we can try and further pursue that. I mean, I'll happily speak up on that.
You can visit with the staff tomorrow or by email, and they will provide you with the names and contact information for the Department of Highways.
Okay, and that's all, and thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Additional questions, please?
Make a motion to close public hearing.
Certainly, any member of our
Do you
team
want to
is-
speak under the public hearing, or do you want to speak under, after?
will be available to answer all your questions at the end of the public hearing. I would just, for purposes of the record, just remind the Commissioner, for everybody's benefit, that a plan that approves, that's complies with the ordinance, you're required to approve. That's what the law is. We'll be happy to answer whatever questions.
Sure. Okay, if there's no further questions or comments from the public, I need a motion to close the public
Motion to
hearing.
close the public hearing.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Lewis, second by Mr. Goff, to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now closed. Do you want to answer any questions, Mr. Martin? Barton?
I think, frankly, I think staff has already answered most of the questions. What I heard from most of the folks, first of all, were generally satisfied with the design of the project. The project complies with the ordinance. Obviously, we didn't seek any waivers from the zoning ordinance. We've complied with it. We've complied with the subdivision regulation. Panhandle and the Steptoes have done everything they could to present a project that this community can be proud of. We'll be happy to answer any of your questions. We've already said traffic study is not required, and we have no intention of getting one because it's not required. But beyond that, I mean, everything else is, you know, the plan speaks for itself.
Well, you know, I will say to the public, the roads in Berkeley County are not under our control. So we hear every meeting about traffic, and we're concerned about it. But again, we don't have control over the roads in Berkeley County. That's the West Virginia Department of Highways. Contact them, make your comments known. The gentleman that spoke earlier for the Riverside, he's questioning traffic. It is an issue. It's an issue in the county, and the state needs to do something. And if you're loud enough to the state, maybe that will happen. Okay? Planning Commission members, do you have questions?
Ma'am, I have a question for Laura. I had forwarded her an email from a lady in the neighborhood. Laura, did you have the opportunity to address those issues with her?
I haven't yet. I've written them down in responses to them, but I was going to make sure that I got with Ryan and Doug and before we send a response out.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure that, you know, I didn't really expect it to be done today, but just sometime in the very near future, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Planning Commission members, do you have additional questions or comments?
Can I ask just one more question?
Public hearing is closed.
Oh, okay.
Being no comments from the commission, I make a motion that we accept staff recommendations for advancement of the sketch plan to the preliminary plan stage. Second.
All right, I have a motion by Mr. Lewis and a second by Mr. Gokenhour. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Sir, the questions that you have, you may want to submit to the staff. They can answer those questions for you. Did he leave? Is he still there? Okay. All right. Let the record show that Mr. Gant is rejoining the meeting. The next item for public hearing. I'll give you a few minutes if you want to clear. Just wait a minute.
I'm gonna wait, but
You said 45.
If you could take your conversations to the hallway so that we can continue with the meeting. Please take your questions to the hallway. Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
the next public hearing tonight is a request for sketch plan advancement. The project is APM Residences, file 2204-109. The developer is Alaharmouche Properties Management LLC. The engineer is the Thrasher Group. It's located in the Apecan District, tax map 6, parcels 1.6, 1.7, 1.11, 2, 4, 5, and 6. The property is located behind APM Inn & Suites on McMillan Court and adjoining Edwin Miller Boulevard and the Interstate I-81 interchange. The site will be accessed by Mossy Lane. This project proposes 348 dwelling units with 4 apartment buildings, 3 6-story and 1 5-story, and the redevelopment of an existing hotel into a new 11-story, 12 rooms per floor hotel. The total site is approximately 16 acres and will be served by public water and sewer. At the April 4th, 2022 meeting, the developer was granted a waiver to Section 801, Table 8-1A, 7, for off-street parking, reducing the number of parking spaces from 2.5 spaces per unit, plus 1 space per employee, plus 10% additional spaces for guests to 2.1 spaces per unit, plus 1 space per employee, plus 10% additional spaces for guests. On July 13th, 2022, County Engineer Doug Smith issued a letter of approval stating that a review of the above-mentioned project was completed and found to be in compliance with the Berkeley County Subdivision Ordinance. The sketch plan meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance, therefore staff recommends advancement of the sketch plan to the preliminary plan stage.
Okay, do we have anyone to represent the project?
Rob Milne with the Thrasher Group, here to represent the project.
Thank you. Okay, this is a public hearing. If you have questions or comments regarding this project, please come forward and make yourself known and any questions you might have.
Good evening. My name is Stacy Stoller, and I'm a property owner in the adjacent area. And my initial problem, which you guys already squashed, was access to the new proposed apartment buildings. However, I had no idea that there was a proposal to rehab the existing motel and put in an 11-story motel in its place. That is concerning to me. I own a few houses nearby. It's residential. It's quiet right now, and a lot of you guys are just blowing this up. So is there any, and I haven't and I apologize, I haven't had the opportunity to look at any sketches or anything on this. Is there any kind of required buffer area again between what's proposed and the existing residential neighborhoods that's in the area?
Okay.
Because right now, the motel that's there, to be quite honest, isn't kept up very well. There's a lot of calls from 911 there, both police and ambulance. There's big spotlights now that shine in the residential areas, and this thing's only, I think 1 or 2 stories at this point. What's it going to be when it's 11 stories tall into the existing houses? So, and again, I'm just questioning this off of what I just heard a few minutes ago. I'm sure I've got other questions or issues at this point, but that's definitely something I've got concerned about. Again, the road coming in there is real tight. There isn't even a center line painted on the road once you get down past a really sharp curve. The current road is overgrown and it's barely wide enough for 2 cars to pass. And as a matter of fact, I've fought with the Department of Highways for the last 1.5 years just to try to get them to fill in some potholes down there, which they finally did do. So I'm not sure how all this is going to play into what's existing there now, but dumping an 11-story building on top of all these apartments that's going in there, it's really going to change, the area. And I think it's a concern for the there's a couple neighborhoods there. I think it's concerning to everybody. Don't know if it is or not, but I tried to look at this momentarily when it first arose, and I think there was an issue maybe originally with the water. There being enough water to support all this stuff. I don't know if that's been addressed or if that's not even the case.
Well, again, this is a sketch plat.
Yeah.
And the water and sewer availability statements are not required at this time.
Yeah, they have will serve letters there.
Pardon me?
They have will serve letters.
They do?
From both water and sewer.
Okay, but they're not.
Doesn't mean the final design is done, but it means that the water and sewer company do understand the need and do intend to serve it. However, the owner may have to do mainline extensions or improvements, but they have agreed to serve it.
Okay, but that's not on our staff report. Availability statement.
Correct.
Find it in the other file, the old file.
But they do have will
They're
serve.
currently served already.
Yeah,
So
but
we
not
do-
not to this capacity.
No, and they don't look at capacity. The will serve letters is basically there's water and sewer within that proximity, so
Availability's there.
yeah, the availability's there. The design isn't something that is looked at by them until plans are submitted to them for design approval, and that's normally not until the preliminary planning stage.
Okay.
I mean, there's an existing sewer pump station right in front of the hotel.
Okay. Mr. Milne, do you have anything you want to answer here as far as questions go?
Sure. And my other question real quick too is the plan to tear down the existing motel and rebuild brand new, or is it to go up where it's at?
Real brand new. We encourage that to get rid of what's there.
Right.
If you understand what I'm trying
I
to say.
totally understand. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. He said, yeah, they're gonna tear it down and build back now.
I'm off subject, I guess. That doesn't make sense to me.
Sir, you'll have to come forward and state your name.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry. My name's Richard Payne. Somebody mentioned the lights. Those lights are for safety. Lights keep away crime. That's a fact. Ambulances, I've been in 2 of them, and I've been alive because of them. I'm diabetic. That's what I want to say right now. I think you have to look at how much water is in the main to feed that place. How big is the main coming down the streets, an 8-inch, 10-inch? How much is the building gonna need to give fire protection and public water to drink? Thank you, Sergeant.
Mr. Milne, do you want to come forward and answer some of those questions?
Sure.
Okay, the one gentleman spoke of access to Mossy Lane. The developer has done a traffic study for this area, and we have addressed recommendations in the traffic study at the sketch plan showing an improved roadway all the way back to the entrance up for the hotel. We have met with the Department of Highways and discussed the entrance at that location, and they didn't have any issues with where our proposed location was from a site distance perspective. The existing road from the entrance from the apartment complex all the way back to Edwin Miller Boulevard will be improved to 2 lanes with a turn lane at the intersection, and that road would be, the lines would be painted on that road. So from the standpoint from the developer, he will improve that road from the proposed new entrance all the way to the intersection with Edwin Miller Boulevard. There will also be an extended turn lane on Edwin Miller Boulevard to accommodate right turns going into the facility. The project does meet the setbacks. There will be a mainline extension agreement with with Berkeley County Water to upgrade the water for that facility. There will be fire protection for that hotel. Those plans will be submitted. The hotel plans will be submitted to the fire marshal for review and approval prior to construction of this apartment complex. The existing hotel, and I would agree with all comments that I've heard so far to date on the existing hotel. It will be demoed at some point during the construction of this. My guess would be after some of the apartment complexes are in the process of being built. The target for these apartments are young professionals, so that existing hotel would obviously not fit in that area. I think when this project is done, you'll see a complete reduction drastically in the 911 calls to this location.
Can I ask some questions? I'm sorry.
Sure.
I've never been to one of these before.
Go ahead.
Is there any kind of bond or anything that you guys have to put up to say, hey, we're definitely going to follow through with all this stuff, and we can promise you all this stuff over here, and then
Yes, sir.
promise-
Yes, sir. After the preliminary plat, prior to going to construction, the developer will be required to submit a bond to cover the construction.
The same person that owns the motel right now is the one that's doing all this development?
Yes, sir. That's pretty much why he bought it, for the purpose of this future development, not for that existing hotel.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And what's the time frame for all this?
Well, pending approval of the sketch plan tonight, our next step would be the preliminary plat approval. And, you know, yeah.
And is there any provisions for doing anything for the residential neighbors as far as, piece of planting, some few shrubs or something back there?
Yeah, there will be there's a buffer on that backside.
They proposed a 8-foot high fence. Yeah. Just like that.
Yeah. I'm concerned about it. It's going to continue over here.
So,
That road will be improved from there all the way back.
DOH is to the entrance of the property.
Yeah, but there's a residential house right here that you
but
guys.
it's on the other side of the road, yeah, well, because from a buffer standpoint, it can only be when it's directly adjacent to residential, since the road breaks it up.
I understand that you guys don't have to do anything here, but just to change some attitudes in the room here, are you guys willing to do something with some buffer up here? Because you guys are missing, I understand it's across the street, but all the stuff I mentioned earlier as far as the lighting and the loitering and all the noise and everything that happens in this parking lot right here, it all goes down this
They're required to have parking lot landscaping too, so at most what's required is.
And I understand that, but just to say, hey, we feel you, we'll go ahead and do this fencing and this shrubbery and everything, we'll continue on around here to protect you guys, because we want to be good neighbors.
Sure.
So I'm requesting that that happen down here is in good faith, so, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the developer, I mean, he wants to play by the rules, he wants to build this so that everybody's happy.
Right, and that's what I'm getting at.
Development, and I think that's a good idea. We can add that to preliminary plat. for
It can't
landscaping.
get too high because of site distance, and so
Right.
what we'll have to look out for is the site distance from like where the entrance would be right here to
You
where
also
the
got the
shrubbery
pump
would be.
station here,
It
too.
should-
Right.
It should be able to be done, but it wouldn't be, 6 foot high.
And with regards to lighting, we're required to meet the subdivision ordinance so that proposed lighting on the new facilities do not exceed the property boundary.
They do right now.
I can't control that.
We understand that, and there's probably a reason for that, and I don't want to get into that right here. But I think the reason why they want a lot of lighting there is for the conditions that exist at this time. And I understand that, we're trying to get from that to here.
Well, I mean, if this is really gonna happen, other than the fact that this thing is 11 stories tall, set beside 2 developments, which I think is too tall. I think somebody here and maybe we're beyond that, maybe I'm late to the game, but 11 stories seems awful tall to be looking down on all these residential houses right there. I doubt anybody that lives in the subdivision in this room would want an 11-story motel parked in the middle of their subdivision. 5 stories or something would be one thing, but 11, that's another, I think.
But that's something that we can't really control.
Yeah, that's what we think.
Without zoning, we can't
But
regulate that.
that aside, if you guys, what you're proposing is accurate, and I believe it when I see it, I think you're going in the right direction, and I would appreciate that. And I think the only thing else, like I say, I can ask for is that you guys do what you can for a buffer here, of fence and bushes and stuff, so that people loitering in the parking lot there, that stuff that travels just straight up Particle Lane, or I'm sorry, McMillan Court right there.
Okay, I think we have the gist of what you're looking at, and I believe Mr. Melanie does too. Again, this is a sketch plat, so whenever the final plat is, the preliminary plat is submitted, all of your questions should be answered. Okay?
I got one other question, and again, I might be asking stupid questions here, but you told me that you can't control the height of this building.
No.
Who does control that? Are you just saying, hey, you guys can put in a 1,000-story building right there and we can't stop it?
There's no architectural zoning in Berkeley.
There's no height restrictions in Berkeley.
Only around the airport.
Your structural engineering would limit you to some degree, but yeah, there's no height restriction with any type of building outside of the airport.
And just one other thing to point out, to be able for the developer to afford to build everything, he's got to have a certain return. So the hotel goes, basically it's how many floors can I get here so I can get a return back, same to the apartment.
And is this hotel going to be extended stay?
I don't know the answer to that question. I did not believe so. I believe it would be more of a first-class hotel with like a restaurant on top and stuff.
Is this a
versus
brain
what we
child
have
or is
now.
it just 8 p.m.?
I don't know that that's determined.
Okay, I think we've got the gist, okay? Again, this is a sketch plat, and a lot of your questions will be answered whenever the preliminary plat and the final plat is submitted. And I think that you will be addressing his concerns as well as the rest of the citizens' concerns, okay?
Space. Stacy, don't do this to me. Really have to make water sometimes. Good. Hi, Judy Butler, residents of McMillan Court.
Okay.
Sometimes we have some flooding that goes on the street now. Is that gonna be addressed whenever they build more things with the hotel or whatever we're going to call this, the high rise? Because that could cause flooding, and there's only one way in and one way out of that development down there. There are not two entrances or two exits.
Yeah.
That
Understand.
can also be an issue.
From the standpoint of drainage and where drainage goes, the water from this facility all flows toward basically the interstate ramp there at exit 16. And we've already met with the Department of Highways regarding outletting into the DOH right-of-way and the requirements of what that's going to take. So I don't foresee any of this water from this facility impacting McMillan, the existing subdivision.
Is it going to go across the road into Mid-Atlantic Parkway? Because there's already issues over there.
I'm sorry?
Mid-Atlantic Parkway.
Yeah, it's gonna best to get there.
It would go into the existing DOH drainage system that is.
South on 84.
South on 80?
along 84.
It goes south?
Yeah, that part of the interchange ramp drains back south.
Okay. All right. Additional questions regarding this project? Sir, come forward again.
I'm sorry, but I got it. Well, sir, I don't understand one question. Richard Payne, you said you were going to demolish the existing premises? My only understanding is why are you improving at this present time the existing premises? I just want to understand the economics. That's all.
I'm not the owner. I can only relate to what the owner's plans are that I'm aware of. He wants to build the apartment complexes behind the existing hotel.
Yes, sir.
And once that starts, he would like to take that existing hotel away and put a nicer facility there.
Something there I don't understand. Okay, one other question. Where can we get all these, I call them plats, that are being made out and put out? How can we get those available to us?
Everything's located on the county website, but
Yeah,
if-
site plans.
yeah, everything's located on the county websites, but if you come into our offices, we can print them for you on regular sheets of
Yeah, I'm
paper.
not a big-
Yeah,
You got it.
I kinda figured.
You figured right.
Yeah, you can stop in and we'll print them out for you.
And that's in this book.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Dave.
Yep.
Okay. Additional questions or comments that we want to address to the commission, or we done with comments?
If there are no further comments, I move to close public hearing.
Okay. Let the record show that there's no additional comments that need to be heard or want to be aired tonight. Have a motion by Mr. Goff, second by Mr. Gant, to close the public hearing. All those in favor? Opposed? Public hearing is now closed. Planning Commission members, you've heard a lot of questions. You've heard a lot of answers. Do you have any questions of your own?
There are no questions.
Ma'am, personally, I feel a single entrance out, coming out of there or going in is detrimental to that neighborhood.
Okay, let the record show that Mr. Gokenauer is questioning a single entrance in that neighborhood. Let me just ask the question. In our regulations, we have housing requiring 100 or more have two entrances. That does not apply to this project?
It really speaks to residences. It really, I mean, you could construe that to attached, single-family residences. However, where we left this with this was, it was egregious. I mean, there was no other way they could get another entrance. DOH would not allow it. That's the first up. The second was when they did present the traffic study to it, DOH did request that part of this roadway back from Mid-Atlantic be improved, which was done. DOH does own up to the right-of-way where the entrance is. Then it turns over to the HOA's street. So in looking at the traffic study, the improvements on Mid-Atlantic that are already ongoing from Carvana and several of the other places that have come in, you know, we felt that everything would work its way out, and we felt that it was okay as far as staff is concerned. It was my engineering opinion that this will be okay based on everything that's been done.
As this enters onto Route 9 or Edmund Miller Boulevard, whatever you want to refer
Yes,
to it,
ma'am.
it is east of the traffic light.
Yes, there is a proposed signal that is in the ultimate build-out of the DOH traffic study. It won't go in with this one, but it does go in a few years later as the improvements come online. Remember that this part of the roadway out there is a conglomeration of several large projects that are coming in, and they trigger certain things as they come online. They are adding an extra turn lane. They are going to stop left turn movements into Mid-Atlantic as well. So this whole thing is getting a traffic configuration, and it's going to happen in pieces.
But not immediately.
Not immediately. These improvements will go in immediately here, but there's also other things going on out here that will be, you know, shutting off the left turn lanes into Mid-Atlantic, where the new BFS store, that's it, thank you.
Mid-Atlantic, like the Carvana location, and
Right.
this all use each other's traffic information in regards to the traffic studies. So all of the traffic was kind of built upon with the adding on of the traffic study. So that was all taken into consideration when DOH reviewed it. So it wasn't like DOH was looking at this with the blinders and the next one. It was all considered.
And
So
the build out is 2025.
I'd be here before you know it, too.
That's when basically all the traffic studies were set to trip the final one at 2025. And, you know, as far as I could tell, I mean, you know, you would be, DOH would not let him have another entrance. And, you know, it really comes down to the property becomes almost not worth anything.
they certainly wouldn't allow it onto Edwin Miller or Route 9. With Mossy being a DOH road all the way up to the entrance of the proposed location, our offices kind of look at it as, okay, that's the closest DOH road, and DOH makes that determination. So at most, they would have 2 entrances onto Mossy, which
It's kind of ridiculous.
Well, if I could interject something, where this entrance is right now, you have to drive all the way around that existing motel and squeeze in right behind a house in that development on Mossy Lane. And I hear these folks saying that the Department of Highways wouldn't allow it, but as soon as you came on to McMillan Court, if the entrance to this thing was between the motel and the interstate, you wouldn't even have to come close to any of the residential neighborhoods with entrance to this
That's
whole
just
thing.
it. DOH would not allow it.
So
they don't want as many entrances.
They don't want it
onto Route
close to
9.
this intersection because of all the traffic on Route 9. They want to push it as far away from Route 9 as they can. And we can understand that with everything that's, if you travel Route 9, then certainly you know.
Well, if I could read between the lines, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but it sounds like to me we're forcing this because there's so much money involved here. We're going to put this entrance here, and we're going to make this happen, because if not, then this property is worth nothing. I think that's what I just heard.
Well, it would be a taking, I think is what he was trying to say. It could be looked at as a taking because just as you would be upset, the property owner would be upset and look as if we were being egregious on the requirements for what we would be asking them to do. Because they've met all of the requirements that we have in our subdivision regulations, so they could file a suit and say that the planning commission is taking their property.
Well, I think this shouldn't happen unless this guy buys this piece of property, which is for sale, I believe, right now. And the entrance is right where the existing entrance is to this motel.
Chances are DOH would never let that entrance there. I can tell you that right now because we did look at this earlier on.
Okay.
We did look at using this public hearing.
All right, I
Yes,
think-
but they would not
I
allow
think-
him to use the entrance for this project.
I think we've already closed the public hearing. If you want to have dialogue with the staff and with Mr. Milne, I'm certain that you could do that. But we have closed the public hearing, and we need
I
to.
didn't hear anybody say that it's closed.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. There's a lot going on. That's okay. Planning Commission members, do you have questions? Mr. Gokenauer made a comment, and I don't know if you heard answers to your question, Mr. Gokenauer.
Yes, ma'am, I heard him.
Okay, all right. Okay, if there's no further questions, then I'm ready for a motion.
I'll make the motion, we accept staff recommendation and grant the sketch plan approval. Advance to the preliminary plan stage.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Gant, second Mr. Lewis, to accept staff recommendation, and that is to grant sketch plan approval. And again, this is a sketch plan to go forward to the preliminary plan stage. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Thank you. Okay, the last public hearing we have is for Orchard View Townhomes.
Yeah, we're right around the corner here, like our office is like right there, but the planning commission. Here. Make sure you tell everybody that.
What, I don't know.
That I'm a sweetheart. No, that I'm a sweetheart, that's what you said.
You are a sweetheart.
There you go. That's all right, so you can call us and then our address is right there, it's C203.
I love you, you're the sister I've never had. She is.
C203, so it's in this building, it's just around the corner. Yep.
Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's continue with our public hearing, Orchard View Townhomes.
This is a public hearing for a request for sketch plan advancement. The project is Orchard View Townhomes, file 2106-202. The developer is Apex Homes, and the engineer is Kimberly J. Petrucci, P.E. It's located in the Arden District, tax map 18, parcel 34.7, and is located on Corning Way, approximately 960 feet west of its intersection with Winchester Avenue. The developer proposes 10 townhome lots on 1.12 acres to be served by public water and sewer. No waivers or exceptions have been requested. On July 13, 2022, County Engineer Doug Smith issued a letter of approval stating that a review of the above-mentioned project was completed and found to be in compliance with the Berkeley County Subdivision Ordinance. The sketch plan meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance, therefore staff recommends advancement of the sketch plan to the preliminary plan stage.
Thank you. Do we have anyone to represent the project?
Emily Petrucci, and the owner, Mr. Walls, is here tonight.
Okay, thank you. This is a public hearing. If you have questions or comments regarding this project, please come forward, state your name, your address, and your questions.
My name is Michelle Williams. I live in Orchard View Estates, Subdivision 2. This property is adjacent to the homes in our subdivision. I was reviewing some of the information that dates back to 2006. I was just curious if a new sketch plan, or if we're using a sketch plan from 2006.
The new one.
And I noted that we have stormwater problems because the stormwater management pond that we have was grandfathered, and it's even noted in the comments from the engineers that it's really not a stormwater management pond. And we know that because we've tried to do improvements to our neighborhood, and no engineering company will work with us because they said it doesn't meet code and there's no way to make it meet code for the number of houses there. But we're going to put in 10 more townhomes in that exact same area where we don't cover the stormwater to begin with. So I'm not sure. I'm new to this. I don't know how you address this, but I went back through all the documents, and the engineer did say that that it was actually what we call a stormwater management pond is not a stormwater management pond. And I think that was, it's in the list there from October 2006. There's a mention there, we said that.
What you want me to comment? Or?
Sure.
The engineer proposes now, or the sketch plan proposes now to do their own stormwater management. So obviously their peak discharges for the 2 and the 10-year storm will be at the pre-developed level. And with the bio facility for MS4, probably you won't even hardly see any runoff from this except in a very large storm. As far as Orchard View is concerned, they were probably designed, if that was built in 2006, then it was under the 2004 ordinance. It was stormwater. It probably has not been maintained by the HOA, which is what we see in a lot of these older ones. And it doesn't have to be upgraded to today's standards, but it probably could be, it could use probably some refurbishment. Most of the HOAs who've owned these have not done any maintenance whatsoever.
I'll speak to that. It was done by Daniel Wall himself in 1993. There was a document from Henley, Nice and Associates that says that they could not find the construction of that current facility. Their client is the one who constructed it. And it wasn't 2004, it was 1993. And we had flooding in there. We finally got a contractor who put a culvert under a road for us to at least get the water out of the neighborhood into the pond. But if we disrupt this land that slopes back towards our property, not my personal property, the development, because I am the vice president of the HOA, and we have done everything we could possible to maintain it, except we don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars and we've been told that it takes to bring it to code. So that's our concern. And the fact is, is there going to be a barrier between the townhomes and our development? The townhomes that were built over on Tabor Station Road, we saw an increase in crime in our development due to those townhomes. They're much further away than the townhomes that are going to be built, and then we're back up against 2 of our homeowners.
Okay. Ms. Petrucci, do you have any answers to her questions?
Just that a buffer is not required by the ordinance, but but a buffer is not required between 2 residential properties. Correct.
Yes, that is correct.
I understand, but I have to say that single-family home, quiet neighborhood that we have, and now we have no townhomes. Plus, we have the more on the other side that we're reporting hundreds that are being built at the intersection of Tabor Station Road and Route 11. So we were only asking for like a 6-foot fence to go around the property. And considering the stormwater management and the issues that were brought up in 2006 by the engineering company back then, and Mr. Wallmeyer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of awkward coming down here seeing you standing behind the desk here.
Can't get away
anyhow,
from you.
I only
I
have
can't get
one
away from
comment.
you. I
The
can't get
whole
away-
subdivision has been poorly planned.
Orchard View.
Orchard View. If you come into the subdivision, let's say to put 10 townhouses there, it throws the subdivision, what's the word I'm looking for? Out of kilter because it's all home, single family home. And a buffer, yes, that would be fine, but there is insufficient drainage for the pond because the pond isn't big enough, hasn't been approved. And I think it should be looked at it from the standpoint of keeping the neighborhood as a family home neighborhood, not as a townhouse.
We can't control that, though. That's the sad part.
I'm just saying.
I know. I understand. Thank you, Mr.
But it is a poorly planned neighborhood. There's houses above water and below water. And it is really a poor neighborhood.
Let the record show that that's Mr. Jim Reed speaking. You didn't give us your name. I know you, but you didn't give us your name for the record.
Sorry. Jim Reed, R-E-E-D.
Yeah,
You know,
I
you
get,
know who I am.
I do know who you are. Mr. Reed is a very good volunteer for Meals on Wheels, which I serve too, but that's another beating that I take. What about Orchard View Stormwater Pond?
You know, if the subdivision was designed back in the early 90s, is what was just said, there's probably some stormwater management there. What kind of stormwater management from 93, Lord only knows. There were regulations in place at that time. Bucky was here. So the regulations that Bucky used up until 2009, he sent everyone to the Maryland Stormwater Manual. That's what was used over here.
Yeah.
After 2009, they were still using that some, and then when the 16 ordinance come out, they switched over to their own requirements and to West Virginia's water quality method. But up until that time, it was mainly the Maryland manual, and not always did they require stormwater quality. So you mainly had just control ponds. Some of them didn't control the 25, they only controlled the 10-year. Some of them didn't even control the 2. So it really depends. But what we have seen is what facilities they do have in a lot of older subdivisions, they aren't being maintained regularly. And they become silted up. They don't have capacity. And then when we do get a major event, say a 10 or a 25-year event, we do see the issues with them. But, you know, stormwater inspection, the MS4 folks, they're supposed to be going out and looking at these existing structures and trying to get the HOAs on the maintenance program. The older subdivisions are deficient because the plans didn't include a maintenance plan. They didn't include instructions for the HOAs, and we understand that. So we try to help where we can, but that is one of their main functions.
Somewhere in the back of my mind, I remember stormwater maintenance agreements.
Yes, they are all executed for every project now. In the past, it's
When did
miss.
that start?
Dirk started it when he came here. It started it with the
14,
2016 Stormwater Ordinance.
Yeah, it started with the new stormwater ordinance in 2016. So now it gets recorded and gets attached to the easement plat and the grading permit and so on, gets added to the plans.
Are you sure that it wasn't before 2016?
No, ma'am, it wasn't.
Okay. All right.
Speaking to his comments, the original plat, I think, goes back to 68 or 69. Was Orchard View Estates.
Yeah.
Mr. Ross, Dave Ross is on that. They only developed the first road because Mr. Ross passed away. Then the second section, it happened to be 2 different homeowners associations. The first section has no stormwater runoff, anything. If you look at the plat from 1960 something, there's no stormwater management on the plat. Because there was nothing back then.
Well, they didn't regulate it
They didn't
back
regulate
then.
it, right. So then when Roger Rolla bought the existing property and platted out, carried over the plat that was registered in the 60s. And he bought the extra property that was on Corning Way, one of which is parcel X, which is our water flow pond, because it's not stormwater. We had many a conversation with Bucky Teach and our attorneys about how do we get this cleaned up, because we have people's houses under water. And he basically said there's nothing they could do except we could hire an engineer, because everything was done prior to meeting anything to do with stormwater management. So now we're stuck with this, and we just want to make sure that when this property goes in, that pond they put in can handle all of its stormwater runoff, because it's going to back up against our stormwater that has no place to go.
Our new ordinances are designed to discharge on 25-100-year storms pre-development.
No, the pre-developed 2 and 10-year storm flow, total discharge, when you do your new pond, you design it so that you contain all the discharge above that, so that you only release at the pre, 2, and 10. The 100-year storm must be controlled through the facility. It doesn't mean it has to work. it means it has to be controlled,
Has to go through it.
which is basically what it's saying is an emergency.
But what I'm getting at is there would be very, very little flow of any coming out of that discharge, like you said earlier.
And if you looked at it now, you would have to do stormwater quality, and that would reduce a lot of your, basically, you're gonna capture your first inch, you're almost gonna take your 10-year storm off the table.
I tell people this all the time, they don't believe me, but these newer ponds and the facilities that are being designed now actually help downstream problems on post-development. And I can tell you, out there at, behind bonded carriers, where it all flows down through there, that new development's going there where they put that big pond and made it bigger than it needed to be. I bet you it's going to help that situation.
Yes.
So I wouldn't lose too much sleep over this as far as creating additional flooding on that property. But it's just me.
Can you give Ms. Williams the contact information for, did you say it was DEP that regulates the storm ponds?
No, we regulate them.
No, old ones.
It's,
So it'd be
it'd be the stormwater district in the sewer district.
Okay. Can you give her that information so that she can contact them to,
The MS4.
MS4, that's who I was looking for, the MS4 people. Can you give Ms. Williams the MS4 contact information so that she can contact them about their storm pond?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ms. Williams, you understand that? Okay. All right, if there's no further questions or comments, we ready to close public hearing.
Close public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Goff, second by Mr. Gant to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. The public hearing is now closed. Planning Commission members, you've heard a lot of conversation. You've heard a lot of emotion. Do you have any questions?
There are no questions. I'll make the motion. We accept staff recommendation and advance the sketch plan to preliminary plan stage.
Motion by Mr. Gant, second by Mr. Goff to accept staff recommendation, and then as to advance the sketch plan to the preliminary plan stage. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Okay, that concludes our public hearings. The next item on the agenda is preliminary plan approval, Spring Mills Community Park.
This is a request for preliminary plan approval. Project is Spring Mills Community Park, file 2111-403. The developer is Berkeley County Parks and Rec, and the engineer is Fox and Associates. It's located in the Falling Waters District, tax map 14, parcels 1.15 and 1.23. The property is located at the southeast corner of the intersection of Hammonds Mill Road and St. Andrews Drive. This project proposes a community park with parking, an open-air pavilion, a bathroom, and gravel walking path. The site is approximately 10 acres and will be served by public water and sewer. No waivers or exceptions have been requested. On June 30th, 2021, the county engineer Doug Smith stated a review of the above-mentioned project was completed and found to be in compliance with the ordinance. The preliminary plan meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance, therefore staff recommends approval of the preliminary plan.
Okay, do we have anyone to represent the project? You've been sitting so quietly.
Mike Schiffler, Fox and Associates.
Thank you. Planning Commission members, do you have questions of Mr. Schiffler?
Ma'am, the only thing that I met with a couple folks from that neighborhood a number of weeks ago, and they had concerns about security. Their subdivision actually borders on two sides, and I don't know exactly how far out the actual construction of this park is going to be, but if some of that natural buffer could be left to help buffer between the park and the residents, I know that a lot of those folks would appreciate that.
You want me to answer?
Sure, somebody. Don't everybody jump at once.
Hey, Mr. Gokenhour. Yes, in the conversations and in the review comments I had with the site plan, we did question security. We did question lighting up at the parking area facility. Most of the responses we did get back from the applicant and owner basically said that the park will be locked after hours or at dusk, and then reopen in the morning. So we did not really pursue anything more about lighting of the pathways or anything like that, because basically they were going to gate off and close the park at night. As far as the buffer, they are not going out to the property line with the walking trail. It's basically through the woods. So the natural buffer is there. It's really, for the most part, the trail extends out through the property, but not the park itself. The park is mainly up here with the pavilion, the tot lot, and the small parking lot that's up there.
They're just gonna cut walking trails through the woods.
It's just a walking trail through the woods, yes. So I mean, there's
Just the walking path and the top
Right.
lot and the parking lot in the front. So the vegetation that's there, unless it's where the walking path is actually going, it's staying.
right. That's why we didn't pursue anything like lighting on the trail. They did make the trail ADA accessible, just so you're aware. It is ADA accessible.
Also, we had spoke with the Falling Waters Battlefield group, who has a historic monument at the end. It's an educational plaque, basically. Not in the best place for them, and we spoke with them and told them that if they wish to put that over into the park, that would be a welcome educational opportunity.
Can you clarify who the "we" is? Mr.
So
Gokenhour?
yes, hang on. It was actually Mr. Umstead and myself.
Oh, okay, so it's the county officials.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
I'm sorry, yes, ma'am.
okay.
Mr. Gergon, this is Mike Schiffler speaking. You're talking about the plaque that's in that triangular area at the end of St. Andrew Drive?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's in a little bit of a hazard. That's a pretty busy intersection and getting more busier every day. So, we did speak to them that, hey, if you all desired, to put that over there, that would be acceptable.
Yeah, I can't speak for Parks and Rec or anybody else, but that sounds like a great idea to me. Just one clarification on the buffer issue you raised. The path is actually going to be constructed and weaved in through major trees. There will be no large trees cut within the forest there whatsoever, the forested area. So maybe some minor small brush and things like that, but
sure.
The intent was to leave the woods intact.
Good deal.
Does that answer your questions, Mr. Gokenhour?
Yes, ma'am. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Okay, if there's no further questions, ready for a motion.
Make the motion, we accept staff recommendation, grant preliminary plan approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Gant, second by Mr. Goff to accept staff recommendation, and that is to advance the preliminary plan, or to approve the preliminary plan. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passed. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is final plat determination, overlook at Riverside.
Yes, this request for final plat determination is overlook at Riverside, Phase 5, lots 252 through 288. The file is 2205-142. The developer is Rod's Family Limited Partnership, and the engineer is Frederick Seibert and Associates. It's located in the Falling Waters District, tax map 7, parcel 160.3. The property is located on the east side of Williamsport Pike and south of I-81. This final plat proposes 37 townhome lots and 4.87 acres to be served by public water and sewer. On April 2nd, 2018, the Planning Commission granted the developer the following deviations for a planned unit development. Direct access to the boulevard will not be permitted. A sidewalk is to be placed on the north side of the boulevard, and fast-growing plantings and trees as a buffer shall be planted between Brookfield and overlooking Riverside. On September 16th, 2019, the Planning Commission granted a waiver to the developer for Article 8, Section 801, Table 8-1A, reducing the required parking for multifamily dwellings with a minimum of 1.86 spaces per unit being provided. County Engineer Doug Smith issued a letter on July 21st, 2022, stating that a review of the above-mentioned project was found to be in compliance with the subdivision ordinance. The final plat meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance, therefore staff recommends final plat determination and advertising of a public hearing for consideration of final plat approval at the September 6, 2022 Planning Commission meeting.
Do we have anyone to represent the project? I hate to wake you up. I know you've been.
Ed Schreiber with Frederick Schreiber and Associates.
Thank you, Mr. Schreiber. Thank you for your patience this evening. Planning Commission members, do you have questions of Mr. Schreiber? He's been very good. He's been sitting there very quietly.
Any questions? I'll make a motion. We accept staff recommendation. Final plat meets the requirements of subdivision ordinance. Make a motion that we advertise for a public hearing at the September final plat approval, consideration for final plat approval for September 6, 2022 Planning Commission meeting.
Second.
I have a motion of Mr. Gantz, second of Mr. Goff, to accept staff recommendation, and that is to consider final plat approval at a public hearing on September 6, 2022. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you very much.
All that for a little bit of time, huh?
All right.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is Dillon Farm.
This is a request for final plat determination, Dillon Farms Estates, Phase 4, lots 115 through 124, and 157 through 180. The file is 2205-145. The developer is SMR Holdings, and the surveyor is Roberts Land Surveying. It's located in the Hedgesville District, tax map 28, parcel 1, and is located on the south side of Hedgesville Road, 0.4 miles northwest of Ridge Road. The developer is proposing 34 residential lots on approximately 9.47 acres to be served by public water and sewer. At the October 12, 2019 Planning Commission meeting, the developer was granted waivers to Article 2, Section 201, reducing continuous attached single-family units permitted in a stick from 3 to 2 to allow for duplexes on individual parcels, and Article 5, Section 504E, Table 5.3, reducing the lot width for a single-family detached residence from 75 feet to 60 feet. County Engineer Doug Smith issued a letter on July 21st, 2022, stating that a review of the above-mentioned project was completed and found to be in compliance with the Berkeley County Subdivision Ordinance. The final plat meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance, therefore staff recommends final plat determination and advertising of a public hearing for consideration of final plat approval at the September 6, 2022 Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you. Do we have anyone to represent the project? Mr. Roberts, you're back there awful quiet too.
Missing s'mores right now.
Good evening. Mike Roberts, represents this project.
Okay, thank you. Planning Commission members, do you have questions of Mr. Roberts or the staff?
Hearing none, I'll make the motion to accept staff recommendation and advertise for final plat determination for September 6, 2022 Planning Commission.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Gantz, second by Mr. Goff, to accept staff recommendation, and that is to consider final plat approval at a public hearing on September 6, 2022. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you. When I saw the short agenda, I thought I might be out of here by 6:30.
That was your first mistake.
But whenever you saw how many people were in the room when you came
I
in,
saw the parking lot.
I got here too early to see the parking lot.
you knew you were in trouble. But thank you for your patience. Planning Commission, staff, legal counsel, do you have anything you want to jump in and say? No? How's the subdivision regulation rewrite coming?
We're caught up now with reviews, so We're trying to spend a day or two a week working on the regulations.
Okay, have we resolved everything with the,
No, we're still waiting on MS4 over there to make their submittal to EPA, I think is what we recommended.
yeah,
Was your question about the stormwater ordinance?
yeah,
Yeah, we've submitted to the DEP our proposed changes to the stormwater ordinance.
right.
In conjunction with the stormwater district. So DEP being, and the EPA might want to look at it too, so you're dealing with some state and federal agencies that might take
A year.
a while. Yeah.
They've had it for a while, and there's been a lot of controversy back and forth. You know, it's time that it get on. And I know you have no control over that. I just have to air my frustration with it, because our staff has worked so diligently, and now we've got these agencies that are bottlenecking, and in the meantime, we have ongoing development in the county that needs.
They're not bottlenecking the subdivision.
Well,
we can't really finish the subdivision regs without
Yeah.
having that cooked, but we could.
You could.
We could, but it would be
We'd have
better.
to amend it.
It would be better if we knew what DEP thinks of the revisions, because some of those things are gonna have to get caught up a little bit more in the.
well, yeah, and what
But
if,
there is a large portion of the, I will give you, in all honesty, you are correct. There are portions of the subdivision ordinance that could be done outside of the MS4 ordinance and should have been done. I'll even give you that. And now that we've gotten caught back up last week, which really was the first week that we have gotten me caught back up, where my review times aren't 60 days out. We're gonna dedicate more time during the week to try to get the subdivision ordinance pumped out for the sections that aren't dependent.
And that's something that we could discuss, because like obviously we've been doing this whole song and dance with the subdivision regulations since I started for the county. So I would love to get our portion of it out the door, but that would have to be with the understanding that we're gonna have to adopt it once something is done with the stormwater ordinance, which I think we're okay with, but.
We're gonna have to come back to the well more than once.
well, yeah, so what's the commission's thoughts here? Do we go ahead and move forward and then go back and wait
Well,
for?
the last instructions that we got, ma'am, from the commission here was to get it all done, bring us to it as one time, and approve it.
That was to get the,
Subdivision ordinance.
but that was to include the stormwater review and all that, right?
Well, I don't think anyone.
I think it was
at the
before
time-
we took it
Right.
and had our meetings and took it to DEP, and before we realized that we would take it to other agencies.
I don't think at the
to look
time
at.
that statement was made, MS4 was necessarily in play. MS4 didn't come into play until very late last year.
Well, it came into play, it just didn't.
It's not how it is.
Well, it came into play because of the EPA inspection that happened,
Right.
and the
But
a
it's,
certain piece of paper that Berkeley County was.
yeah. Well,
We enforce so much of the MS4, so if it's an integral part of
Right.
our site plan process, because a site plan only gets triggered if you trigger stormwater management, which is triggering MS4. So we were hoping that we could do it all in one fell swoop, but if we can't do that, then we can't do that, because I don't wanna sit on subdivision regs for another year.
No.
It can't happen.
Any changes wouldn't be that major.
I don't think it would be.
It wouldn't
It's
be
just-
major, it's
We
just
need you
verbiage.
to understand that if something changes in the MS4 that does affect the subdivision ordinance, we are going to be back in here saying, yeah, we know you just approved it last month, but you're gonna do it again.
Okay. Mr. Gokenhour, are you still with us?
Yes, ma'am.
What's your feelings on that as a county council representative to the planning commission?
Well, I think that with Anthony communicating with Mr. Lewis, who is representing the Stormwater District, and I think that they both agreed on the proper questions, how to word them, to send them out to DEP in particular. And I guess we need to wait on their answer.
I mean, Eddie, this is Anthony. For the stormwater ordinance, yes, but I mean, the subdivision ordinance can be updated. I mean, it can be adopted. There's not gonna need to be too much.
The only question.
That would change based on any changes to they should be two separate documents where one's not completely dependent on the other.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
But it has to be.
But
It has to be.
the subdivision ordinance rewrite still, I think, needs to be pushed back out to the the builders and developers. Let's get another. If we can put them on a timeline, I don't have a problem with that. But they made suggestions. We went through, made some changes, and let's see where we land.
Okay, well, we did all that. We weaved into the subdivision rewrite the developers and the roundtable's comments. So those have all been addressed. Am I correct?
Well, to some degree, yes. To some degree,
They've been addressed, but maybe not to have the degree that they want them addressed.
We haven't rewritten an ordinance to
Make them happy.
To make everybody happy.
We concur, we agree.
Yeah.
But now we've got to go in and write all the words and all the sections to make it happen. Does that make sense? It's the same with the stormwater. If we're going to exempt out half the county from North Mountain over, then some of that stuff is going to have to come back into the, to the subdivision ordinance. Because we're going to have to play around in there with some things because we're letting some people out of doing water quality, but we're not letting some people out. So that, all that's got to get tidied up in there, just like it was in the stormwater ordinance.
And I think that we could make it work because then we could really just tailor the stormwater ordinance to definitely match up with the subdivision regulations, because what we're talking about is language. That's really all we're getting down to. We're not talking about process, because the process for both things are separate always, but we're talking about language, we're talking about jurisdiction, we're talking about agencies. That's what we have been kind of dancing around.
Yeah, I mean, the regulations for stormwater aren't changing. It's always what it has been. The only thing that would change is the applicability in a region. Does that make sense? And just we need to make sure that the subdivision part of it, because we're gonna get hammered.
When we could kind of tailor the subdivision regs to be a little vague and speak to, like, say
I don't like the word
adopted
vague.
stormwater ordinance for Berkeley County instead of pointing to a specific one. There's ways that we could do it.
Right.
Would you agree with me that, say you exempt North Mountain farther out, once that area density grows and gets higher and bigger, if water and sewer go out that way, and
that's just it. Once water and sewer go out that way, that idea
that's going to trigger it.
Because you have to understand, all of Berkeley County drains to the Chesapeake Bay.
But I'm saying it's based on density. That's why you're not requiring it.
But MDE doesn't look at it like that. MDE sees it as your whole county drains to the Chesapeake Bay, which is where our crabs live, and our crab lines matter. And that's where they are. So if everybody agrees to that, it's great. But if there becomes a lot of development out there in 5 years, if everybody pushes out that way, chances are MDE is going to be knocking on your door going, hey, remember us? So
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If
so
the density grows out that far, then
if they'll buy off of this now, then we could be more. I mean, we could probably get a lot of
take a look.
The land development done.
I'll go through the ordinance tomorrow and this week. We have a lot of people out this week, so I might not get completely through it. But by the time we have planning commission again, I'll give you an update and maybe some suggestions on how we can kick the subdivision regulations out the door while waiting on whatever happens with the stormwater ordinance.
Yeah, because we're
I don't want to wait any longer.
Yeah, we're regulating now through a set of ordinance that's 15 years old.
Yes.
And all the problems that we hear are not going to get any better.
But a lot of these problems tonight aren't gonna get solved in the new one either.
Well, I realize that,
I mean-
but there's new projects that are coming all the time that, down there on Shepherdstown Road, all that sort of stuff.
Well, I'll be honest with you, the old ordinance worked there. The old land development ordinance worked there, and right now is, that put the, kind of the nail in the coffin, so to speak, that second entrance, so.
But what I'm saying is, that's just an example of the density that's coming.
Yes, well,
And
we have it everywhere.
through the
yeah.
door tomorrow could appear another 800 home.
They
that-
already are here, there's one laying in there on my desk.
Okay, well, every day, we are putting ourselves in a bad position of not having an ordinance that addresses problems.
And then went for 4.5 years for sure.
Yeah, okay, all right, I'm done.
I agree.
Okay,
I'll look at it though, and I'll let you all know next time we meet.
okay. Let the record show that it's 7:46.
Move to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Goff at 7:46 to adjourn. Second by Mr. Gant. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gokenhour.